Hi guys, Vechs here, and welcome to my Banished review. Okay, so you've seen, well, you may not have seen, but I did a first look series of 5 videos on this game, and I got my first impressions on video. I thought it was okay. I figured I should try to play the game some more and give it a more in-depth review of the game. This should still be pretty quick because there's only a few main points I really want to make about the game. The game it's okay. It's an okay game. I haven't really changed my opinion too much after having played it for a considerable amount of more time. I have a town here that's made it 56 years. I think it's pretty stable. I don't think there's anything that can happen to this town that could knock it out. I'm being very cautious with my supplies. As you can see, I have 64,000 food on hand. And I'm always trying to stockpile as much food and resources as I can, and I'm trying to keep on track of my critical resources like firewood. Don't want to ever run out of tools, clothing. Got a steady supply of clothing coming in. That may actually be the next thing I would expand. But anyway, this isn't about this specific town. This is about Banished, the game as a whole. So welcome to Delania. This is my town I finally got working properly. So what's good about the game? What is good about Banished? Why should you buy Banished? What are the pros first? It's a game by one guy. Just one guy worked on it, and I think it's a pretty game. I think graphically it is proficient. Technically it is proficient. I've had it crash once on me. And this is version 1.0, the very first release. I think it's a pretty game. It looks good. It's nice to look at. The music is good. The music is pretty relaxing. And the game seems pretty solid and well made. It's a well crafted game, technically speaking. I would say, okay, so what else is good about the game? The UI is good. The UI is very functional. Good UI, works pretty well, I would say. Is that a little loud? It's a little on the loud side, isn't it? Oh, no, it's not. It's down pretty low. Oh, whatever. The UI is good. It has a good UI. Everything you would expect from this kind of management and optimization game. You can make the UI as minimal as you want or as fancy as you want to see, more of the game world. I kind of like I have 3 main windows I like having up. I have like the general stats, the event log, the map, and the profession breakdown. This is a very important thing to keep an eye on when you play. It's the profession tab. But yeah, UI is good. It works great. So the only problems I think I have with the game, let's move on to so that was the pros. I think that's the pros. The game's pretty, the music's nice, it's technically proficient, pretty stable game, especially for a 1.0 release. Nowadays we're all used to beta games and permanent beta, ongoing beta, everything's always in testing. Maybe that's an excuse for game developers to have us more crash prone and for us to be used to that. But yeah. Okay, so on to the meh things, maybe the cons, I guess. The gameplay? I don't know. I'm not gonna rate it good or bad. I'm feeling neutral towards the gameplay. It's very management oriented, and I'm gonna compare it directly to Towns because that's the game I played. That's the last town management game I played. Now, compared to Towns, I don't feel any real direction with this game. Like, I've got this town, and it looks cool. I've got a big town here. I've got a lot of people. I got about 200 people. It seems really stable because I've been trying to play very conservatively. I've got farms going. I've got one of every building built, for example. I've got extensive logging outposts built up the road. Some have houses, some don't. To bring in constant firewood, constant lumber. Just try to be really cautious. The first time I played this, I was used to the freedom of other building games like SimCity. SimCity and Towns is really SimCity. Yeah, SimCity 4 is the last one I played. That was just a city building game, and then there was Towns, which is kind of like a city building RPG style game. But both of those games were fairly forgiving. Especially SimCity was very forgiving. Like, in SimCity, if you messed up something, you could kind of fix it and wait a bit, and typically it would work itself out. So I think the gameplay, I'm feeling kind of neutral towards the gameplay. It's not terrible, but it's not blowing me away either. All right, now some of the things that I just kind of got on my nerves. The difficulty curve, the constraints put on your town in this game are really tight. Now I've noticed a few things after playing. I had several towns, they died, and I kept experimenting to see what works and what doesn't. The game wants you to play, at least in the early formative years of your town, you have to play a very specific way. There's no variation. For example, in the food options, it has to be gathering. In the early years, it must be gathering, and I'll show you why. Let's click on a gathering hut. This one is operating at not even full efficiency, because you can see the area it has to draw from is slightly encroached upon by buildings. But we're looking at about 1,500 food. I'm pretty sure a good one, a good gathering hut, a well-placed gathering hut brings in maybe... There's one up here. No. Wait, what the hell? Oh, it's not fully staffed. That would explain things. Oh, right. I need to can some of you guys and put you guys in here. There we go. But the gathering huts are... Let's compare it to, I don't know, where's a hunting lodge? There's a hunting cabin. So this gets 720 food, and this gets a lot more. A lot more. Basically 800 there, 1,250, yeah. Close to about double the food, and fishing docks are, I believe, even worse. Yeah, it's about half. Look at this one, previous season, 542. So the fishing and the hunting, you might think, oh, I'll just do that, that's easy, but no, it's... so that's a big complaint, is that the food options early on are pretty unbalanced. You have to use gathering huts. And if you don't, you're probably going to starve to death, because the others just don't get enough food for how many workers you have available. And I think it's just the resource curves that you need to hit to not die early on. They just feel too tight, and I don't like that. I think that's a negative, because it takes away freedom. And it would have been cool had every method been, like every early food method been viable. But it was like, I kind of felt like when I played it that they were traps, you know? Like, crops will kill you early on. So will orchards. These two, and the pasture as well. All three of these options, if you try to take them early on, if you can, they'll kill your town. They're beginner's traps. All three of these. And honestly, so is hunting and fishing. It just has to be gathering. And I just don't like the way that's designed. There's no just options there. It's like you have to use this, and if you don't use this, your town's gonna die and you'll lose. End of story. Let's see if I can advance this to spring here, so we can get some greenery on the field. And another thing I ran into, it happened occasionally, not too often though, but occasionally, I would see the AI bug out on the workers, and they would just start running basically on a quest to go to Mordor is how far they would travel to try to get somewhere. And I'm like, why are you guys doing that? And I couldn't quite figure out what was up. Like, for example, this town, I had somebody go back about here, where my mouse cursor is, back here, and they were just trying to go over there, and they would go back here and then not do anything, and then they would freeze to death or starve to death trying to get back there. And I'm honestly not even sure how they got back there, because they were doing it before I built that bridge. And or this bridge, actually, I think. But maybe it was some sort of operation where they were trying to, like, one of these, you see how these huts, these work buildings produce an area around them, and so maybe this ring is the operational area, and one of these various buildings had a ring on the other side of a mountain, and they were trying to get to that. Maybe that was what's going on, I'm not sure. But I lost about 20 citizens doing that. And I was trying to figure out what was going on, and then it just kind of stopped, and I don't know what they were doing. But this is this game is 1.0, so maybe some bugs should be expected, I suppose. But that was quite frustrating. But I did run into the same thing with towns, with the villager AI just being too dumb to live, basically. That's a trope, I think. Too dumb to live. Yay, late spring. Okay, let's slow it back down. There we go. Looks pretty. There's our town hall with all our graphs and stuff. Look at all these graphs. So, yeah, okay. So I don't like how tight the demands are that you have to meet. I wish they were a little relaxed, maybe. I don't like it because you have to do like in Minecraft, you have some options of getting food, and I just kind of like that. Like in Minecraft early on, when you start out, you could go hunting, you could start trying to plant crops, you could go gathering, scavenging for mushrooms. You have some options there of stuff to do. But in this game, I didn't feel that kind of freedom. It wasn't like, oh, here's this new open world, let's explore it and let's make a town. It was like, oh, we just started a game of Banished. Better build those gathering huts all over the place, or we'll die. That's kind of how it felt, and I didn't like that. All right, so enough about that aspect of the game. There's only, I think, one. Well, I have two other negatives, I think. One is that I feel a lack of direction at this point. Like, I have a big town, and I built every building, and earlier on, before I started recording, I saw nomads come in, and I declined them. And I've unlocked most of the stuff here. And I just don't really feel any desire to keep playing, basically. There's nothing to do. In towns, you had the dungeon to explore, and you had stuff going on to watch, like cool stuff going on to watch. Here, there's nothing really going on. You can watch the citizens going about their business, but it's not particularly interesting. In towns, the heroes down in the dungeon, that was really interesting to watch, because if they died and led the monsters back to your town, you could be under attack. Whereas here, it's a dude tilling a field, and then he's gonna go over there and he's gonna till some more fields. So it's not really fun to spectate, I guess. Towns was just more lively, and there's more stuff to do in towns. Although I felt like I did beat towns when I got to the final. That's why I stopped my town series, is I felt like I'd beaten the game and done everything. I was gonna work on a giant trap system, but meh. I felt like I had just kind of beaten it. But my town series went many episodes, whereas this thing, I think this is my 6th video, and I feel like I'm kind of done with it, basically. I do gotta say, the game is pretty. The game is pretty. I will definitely give it that. Now, what else? So I feel like once you get established, there's nothing more to do. It's just kind of, you're going to be managing these needs as they pop up and address them. That's about it. So, yeah, and I have one more minor complaint, is that I don't feel like the game has any personality. The game is obviously much more technically proficient than Towns by a wide margin. It's graphically more impressive. However, I feel like the game doesn't have the same personality that Towns had, for example. And like Towns was just sprite based, so obviously it was much less proficient graphically, but it had like some character to it, I guess. You know, character. Even down to the derpy eating sound of the townies. That kind of grew on me after a while. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with the way the game runs or anything. It's the gameplay feels like there's nothing to do once you get to a certain point. And I think maybe I think I've seen complaints, people saying the same thing, like once they get a big town, that's kind of it. I mean, I guess the only thing to do is just to see how big a town I could get before the needs go out of control. Oh, that's another complaint I have, is this game is too prone to death spiral, basically. Death spiral is where one unmet need impacts the operation of the town, resulting in other needs being failed as well, and it becomes like an unrecoverable spiral. I think some of my early towns experienced it. Like, I run out of firewood, and so any fresh firewood that comes up, everybody wants to try to get it, and they can't, and they'll drop what they're doing. Same with food, and that makes them less efficient at other stuff, so that stuff falls behind, and it's a chain reaction. It's like a domino effect. Once one thing fails, other things start failing, and the town is doomed, and you can't recover from it. Actually, on this town, I had something close to that happen. I had where's the population? Where's like the 100-year graph? Is it right there? It is right there. Do you see that dip in population? I had about 50 people, and I lost about half of them, and I barely recovered from that. It was some sort of spiral. It was I think a food-related spiral. Maybe like food. I think it was food related. And despite having, it was quite frustrating. I remember what happened. I had a lot of food stored up, but for some reason they weren't eating it, and I was losing people to starvation. Because I had about 1,000 food in storage. Right here it said 1,000, and I was bringing food in, and just about everybody in the town was working as gatherers at the time, and yet people were still starving to death. And I don't like right there, look, that guy's hungry. That guy's hungry, and I've got 62,000 food. It was stuff like that. Like, they were hungry and they just weren't eating the food. Maybe that was a bug again, because this is a 1.0 game. I'll put that disclaimer out there. It could have been some sort of bug. I don't know. And yeah, so yeah, my major complaints with the game are the demands are too tight for you to explore. I think like in SimCity 4, for example, you could make a town, you could make a city and try to specialize it for the heck of it, just to see if you could. Whereas this game, like, oh, I want to make a city that's only agriculture, or I want to make a city that's only industrial jobs, or only high-tech industry jobs. Or in towns, you know, you could try, oh, I only want to defend my city with traps and not have any soldiers. You could do kind of stuff like that. This game's demands on what you need to do to live are too focused to allow for that kind of freedom, I think. And that's a complaint I have. so you can't mess around as much, because if you do, you're just gonna get killed, because the demands are too tight. So the demands are too tight. There's nothing to do once you get a big town, and the game lacks its own kind of personality, I think. Those are my 3 major complaints. Despite those complaints, there are upsides, like I mentioned, to the game, so it's not a bad game. So I'm going to give it like an average score. Consider this like a 3 out of 5 stars rating, or, you know, a 7 out of 10 maybe, I don't know. A 7 out of 10 is not bad, alright? So anyway, that's about all I have to say on this game. I think I've covered every topic I wanted to talk about exhaustively, and yeah. So kudos to the guy that made this. I think it's very impressive that you made this all by yourself and it was just one person. So, yeah. Good job. Good job. If you want to keep working on the game, I would suggest maybe loosening some of those early demands and allowing the player more freedom to meet needs in a variety of ways that would keep the game interesting, instead of just, you know, having the set step. If you go on the wiki for this game and you look at what you need to do to survive the hard setting, it's written down in steps that you have to follow to survive the hard mode. Like, you have to do this, 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 and this. It kind of, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of StarCraft. Yeah, StarCraft, the RTS. It reminds me of high-level StarCraft play on the tournament scene, because at that point players had figured out the absolutely best possible plays to make and the steps they needed to take to win. And at that point it became a click fest. Who could click faster? That's what this game kind of feels like. Like, it's a solved game and there's a certain number of steps you need to do to care for your town, and there's one single best strategy to use. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I get. So more freedom is my suggestion. If the guy that made the game watches this, more freedom to make different kinds of towns and just mess around. But anyway, that's about all I have to say. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you guys next video. So until then, take it easy.